Hi there, it's Emma and welcome to Sax Bites, the 5-minute saxophone lesson podcast. Today I'm starting a short little series all about scales. They're so important, they are so boring, but we all have to practice them in many different ways, and hopefully I'm going to introduce you to a few different ways to practice scales that you haven't heard before. Sometimes when I'm working with my students, I'll ask them why they're practicing scales. And the most common answer I get back is, well, you told me to. And while that is accurate, I do make all of my students, no matter how young or old, practice scales. There's a few particular reasons why I get them to practice scales. And it's really important that I, as a teacher, make them aware of what we're hoping to achieve from good quality scale practice. So the first one is kind of like a lifelong mission on saxophone. It's developing consistency of sound across your entire range. No note pops out, no note's a little duller than the others. As you move across your scales in regular range, in your low register, in your altissimo register, your tone quality and your sound is consistent. The second goal when practicing scales is to build muscle memory in your fingers. So we want your fingers to be moving really, really fluently across all different keys and doing so without you really needing to think about it. So we're building those neural pathways that lead to what is commonly known as muscle memory. And finally, we want to build mental fluency in as many keys or all keys. And we want to do that by having a really great understanding of different key structures, whether that's key signatures, raised sevenths, raised sixths and sevenths, etc. Modes and moving into patterns that will be useful when improvising, particularly in improvising in jazz. And understanding that when you put a piece of music in front of us that's in one particular key, you actually have done a lot of hard work in your scale practice to get your fingers around that piece because you know exactly where to move in E flat major or A minor or whatever the key may be. So if you're working on scales in your own practice and you're looking for some tips, let me start with the absolute essentials. You've heard these before, but I'm going to repeat them because they're quite often ignored, and that is to go slow and to use a metronome. There's so many great metronome apps and things that are out there for free. There's really no reason why you don't have a metronome ticking away on your stand when you're practicing scales. It's going to keep you really consistent, build in a great sense of timing, and help you move forward faster. Then you need to structure your scale program. So a lot of structure is provided if you're a student moving through an exam syllabus. You will already have a series of scales laid out that you need to achieve. But if you don't have that, how do you structure a scale program? So for example, I, as a professional, been in the industry a long time, have my own scale program that I follow to make sure I get the benefits of structure and planning in this area of my practice. In fact, my scale routine is actually my go-to practice routine when I'm really short on time. It's all I'll do is scales. So if you're looking for a little structure, you have two approaches you can take. The first is to have a really diverse understanding of keys. So that's to work your way around, say, the circle of fourths or the circle of fifths and learn every single key. You might start with 1-octave scales in every single major key going around that circle. Then you might move to 2-octave scales, full range scales, altissimo scales, and use that as your structure. Another option is to just stay in one key and to play that scale in as many ways as possible. So you might play it 1 octave, 2 octaves, in thirds, in octaves, in any other interval you can think of, backwards, flexible, arpeggios, broken chords, anything you can come up with as long as you're staying in that same key and reinforcing your understanding of that key itself. Let me do a little demo for you. It's actually a very relaxing way to practice scales, and I find myself getting into an almost meditative headspace when I practice scales all in the one key. But I often do a few other little variations, and I'm going to save those for the next episode. So tune in next time to see how you can take your scale practice to an even more complex and far more interesting level. Until then, this has been Sax Bites, the 5-minute saxophone lesson podcast. Bye.